I'm going to do one in each section for you, and then when I'm done, I want you to show me that you have done at least one in each section by yourself, and that's how you'll get your points for the day. So the first one we'll do together is number 4. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to get my pen to write here. It's being kind of stinky. Let's see. Just a second, I have to activate my pen. Maybe the red one will go. Yep, there we go. All right, so when you see that negative under the root, you think that there's a square root of -1 out there. And what I do is I say, well, you got to pop an I out because I is the square root of -1. Then you find your perfect square hiding in 24. Yes, it's 2 times 12, but that's not helpful because they're not perfect squares. Yes, it's 3 times 8, not helpful because it's not perfect squares. But 4 is a perfect square, and 4 times 6 is 24. The square root of 4 is 2, so I rewrite this as 2i root 6. So for each of those in the first section, you should have an I popping out, and then you simplify the remaining root. When you solve using square roots, you'll notice in the normal form of ax, and you should be writing this on your paper, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. The easiest kind is when that middle term is missing, because we can attack x by simply square rooting. First, we need to get rid of that lone term. So on number 8, I'd say 6x squared is equal to -72. Then when I try to attack the x, I need to divide by 6. So I'll divide both sides by 6 here. Cancel that out. And on this one, I'd get x squared is equal to -12 when I divide 72 by 6. The next thing I need to do to undo that square is basically take the square root of both sides. So I will get x is equal to, and this is where we do plus or minus the square root of -12. Let me talk about why. If x squared were equal to 9, x could be 3 because 3 times 3 is 9. X could be -3 because -3 times -3 is 9. So we're in the process of solving. We have to make sure we do the plus or minus. When you're up here just doing, well, what's the square root of, say, 25? The answer is 5. But if it's x squared is equal to 25, what's x? Then it's plus or minus 5. Small detail, but a detail that matters. So anyway, when I see this negative, I pop the I out. So I say x is equal to plus or minus I root 12. Then I look for the perfect square hiding out in 12. If there isn't one, I'm done. But 12 has a nice 4 in it, so I still have plus or minus I square root of 4 times the square root of 3. The square root of 4 I know is 2. So when I write this in its best form, it'll be the plus or minus. Put the number first, then the I, and then the root 3. Put it in a box, lock and load it, and you're done. I'm going to do one in the next section, solve using the quadratic formula. It helps if you know what that is. When we're in the form of ax squared, and again, write this on the top of your paper, plus bx plus c equals 0, that means that x is equal to -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Remember, this right here is called the discriminant, all over 2a. So it's basically a map. You just need to identify the a, the b, the c, and plug them in. Let's go do number 16. I need to have it equal to 0 first, so I would say x. And I like to have, honestly, I like to have my a being positive, so I'm going to have my 0 over here. I'd have the 3x squared. To get rid of this x, I'd subtract it because it's positive. To get rid of this minus 3, I would add it. Then I'll identify my key players in my formula up here. My a is now positive 3. My b is what's in front of the x term. It's a -1. And my c is equal to positive 3 as well. Now I'll use the quadratic formula that says x is equal to, it's right up here, so x is equal to the opposite of b. So the opposite of -1 is 1. Plus or minus the square root of b squared. -1 times -1 is positive 1. I always square that in my head because a lot of kids think it's -1 squared. which it's not. It's -1 quantity squared. So be very careful that no matter what you put right here, the first thing you put once you write the root sign will always be positive because you'll always be squaring something. And no matter what you square, the answer is positive. So that'll be b squared minus 4 times a, I like to use parentheses, times c, all over 2 times a. And my a is 3, so I do mine all over 2 times 3. I like to go take care of what's under this root first. I'd have 1 minus. I'd have 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 3 is 36. That's a -35 under there, so I'll do a rewrite. It's 1 plus or minus the square root of -35 all over 2a. I'll pop the negative out as an I. I'll take a look at this and see if it simplifies. It doesn't. The only things that go into 35 is 5 and 7. Then I'll see if there's any factoring and canceling. There isn't any, so I would quit. I want to make sure that you do number 15 correctly, so you'll be showing me that one. I'm going to circle the ones I need you to show me to get the second part. You get 10 points today, 5 for listening to this, and then 5 for doing the circled ones. Number 15 is definitely one I want to see. Next up, these are all addition and subtraction, so we combine like terms. 5i plus 4i is 9i. So let's go take a look. I like to take the parentheses off, and when it's addition, they can just come off like that. But when it's subtraction, like over here on number 20, I can take the first set off, but then I have to distribute the negative in, and be careful with that, because when I do minus a minus, I end up with a plus. Really on this one, you are distributing this in. That would give you a +4, but plus a positive times a negative, still a negative. So when it's addition, you can remove the second set. When it's subtraction, you need to distribute it in. Now this becomes a game of like terms. There's a positive 4i, and I have a minus 1i. That gives me 3 i's. Then I have a 2 plus 4, which is 6. So I'd have 3i plus 6, or 6 plus 3i. And then for number 20, I dumped this in to make it a -2 and then a +2i. I'll now combine my like terms. I've got 5 i's plus 2 more i's, which makes 7i. Be careful you don't call that 7i squared. 5 dogs plus 2 dogs makes 7 dogs, not 7 square dogs. I have a positive 12 minus 2, which is plus 10, and that one's done. I want to make sure you can do an addition and a subtraction one on your own. Actually, the addition's easy, so 22 is another one I'm going to circle. I want to see you do that one. And I think I will do 24. It's subtraction, so I dump this in. I say 10 plus square root -9 minus 2. On the first hop. On the second hop, I have 1 negative, 1 positive, which will make another minus, square root 25. I will go take these negative roots and I'll pop an I out. Sorry, should be a minus in there. See, I forgot it. And then that would be popping an I out. I'll then go clean up my roots. I know that. That's nice, a nice 3i, right? And I know this is a nice 5, so a nice 5i. I combine my like terms. 3 of these minus 5 of those makes -2 of those. And 10 down 2 makes 8. So you can say -2i plus 8 or 8 minus 2i. I would also like to see 23 before you quit today. And I think that is all I'm going to get to because I know you're not tested on these. This is a review for the factoring. This one right here, you would just have to do the quadratic formula on these and see which one gives you that as a solution. 2 complex numbers, blah, 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 a equals c and b to resolve for x and y. I'm going to leave that one undone. This one's pretty easy on 25. It says find the values of C. Remember, if you're going to get two solutions, the discriminant is positive, so I'm just going to write D greater than 0. So you'll be trying to create a B squared minus 4AC that's positive. Imaginary solutions, you'll want the D to be negative, so you're going to try to create a B squared minus 4AC that goes negative. Remember, in this scenario, A is 1 and B is negative 6. So when you're trying to create that, you need to pick a C so that all this ends up being positive, pick a C so that it ends up being negative, and then you need to pick a C so that it ends up being 0. All right, now that you do that, don't do that now though. I'm not as worried about those as I am about the ones I circled here. I want you to get your points, I want you to do 15. I want you to show me, what other one did I circle? 15 and 23 and 22. So make sure you show me those, and then I might check that you have a few others done too. But other than that, have a good one. Work hard. Ciao.